My fellow citizens of Burkina Faso, today I stand before you, not with promises but with action. We have launched a nationwide housing program for our widows, and starting this month, they will receive a monthly support salary ESSC not from the IMF, not from the EU, and not from USAID, but from the strength of our own people. We are proving that dignity does not need foreign approval. Burkina Faso is rising, and we will rise together.
Good evening, Africa, and welcome to a story that is shaking the very foundation of development politics as we know it. In an era where most governments still stretch their hands outward to international donors, President Captain Ibrahim of Burkina Faso is boldly flipping the script. No IMF loans, no EU grants, no USAID assistance. Yet somehow he's doing what few thought possible, building homes for widows and delivering surprise monthly stipends fully funded from within. Yes, you heard it right. The government of Burkina Faso has launched an ambitious welfare initiative, providing housing and regular income to widows across the country without borrowing a single dollar from Western institutions and the people. Shocked, inspired, empowered. This isn't a publicity stunt, it's a clear and deliberate political message. Africa can take care of its own on its own terms. Imagine the impact: women who lost their husbands, many due to insecurity, poverty, or years of conflict, now receiving keys to decent brick homes. No more rent battles, no more depending on the charity of distant relatives, no more being pushed to the margins of society, and on top of that, a regular monthly salary, not a one-off donation, but a guaranteed income to support their children, rebuild their lives, and live with dignity. And what makes this story even more remarkable is the source of the funding: not foreign aid, not strings-attached grants, but rechanneled national resources, budget reallocations, and a leadership that prioritizes the people over elite comforts. Captain didn't wait for Europe's approval. He didn't knock on Washington's door. He didn't host donor conferences. He acted decisively, independently, and boldly. For years, African governments have been told they can't do it without help, that they must wait for aid, for debt forgiveness, for policy prescriptions written in foreign capitals, but is proving that sovereignty isn't just about land, it's about choices. He chose to put widows first. He chose to cut wasteful spending. He chose to invest in people, not politics. And let's not forget the symbolism here. Widows, often among the most neglected and disempowered members of society, are the very first to benefit. This is not just about welfare, it's about justice. It's about rewriting the value system of leadership, where the most vulnerable are prioritized instead of forgotten. This initiative has sent shockwaves far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Across Africa, citizens are asking, if can do it, why can't our leaders? If Burkina Faso, with limited resources and under immense pressure, can build homes and offer monthly salaries without IMF or USAID money, then what's stopping other nations? And that is precisely the kind of leadership the continent is hungry for. Tonight, we're not just talking about a government program, we're witnessing the birth of a new political model, one where dignity replaces dependency, one where African solutions are not an aspiration, they're a reality, one where our people are no longer made to feel like second-class citizens in their own homelands. So, stay with us as we explore this powerful development in full depth. We'll take you inside the communities, hear directly from the women whose lives have been changed, and examine the economic model that makes it all possible. Because this isn't just about Burkina Faso, it's about a future where African nations finally say, with boldness and pride, we don't need to beg, we just need to believe. I'm your presenter, and this is the new Africa, rising from within.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Good evening, Africa, and a special greeting to citizens of Burkina Faso and viewers across the globe. Tonight, we bring you an extraordinary story of leadership, purpose, and radical transformation. The kind of story that not only reconfigures a nation's politics, but reshapes how its people see their own potential. In recent weeks, President Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso has unveiled what many are calling one of the boldest social welfare programs in the country's modern history: a comprehensive housing scheme for widows, paired with a surprise monthly stipend, delivered entirely through national resources. No loans, no grants, and no strings from IMF, EU, or USAID. This is not charity. It is citizenship. It is recognition. And it is deeply, unapologetically African. Burkina Faso has endured years of political turbulence. Natural disasters, displacement, terrorism, and foreign interference have left many vulnerable, especially widowed women, often heads of households in rural communities. Many of these women lost spouses in conflict, have no land title, and have struggled to secure housing, education for their children, or access to basic services. Historically, social programs addressing these challenges came wrapped in foreign aid packages, budgeted under strict oversight, and often delayed or diluted. These programs arrived with conditions often foreign to local reality and rarely prioritized the most marginalized. President Traoré's new policy breaks that mold, grounding citizenship in domestic responsibility, not foreign goodwill. In a televised address to the nation, President Traoré declared, "We will no longer wait for outside checks or conditional aid. We will house our widows and guarantee them a monthly stipend, funded by Burkinabe coffers, guided by Burkinabe dignity." It was a message of shock and then awe. Immediately, the government unveiled a two-part program, a widow housing initiative, constructing modest but decent brick homes for widowed women across the country, especially in rural and conflict-affected regions, and a monthly stipend, a surprise income for each widow, equivalent to the average monthly wage of a local teacher, intended to provide basic stability without dependence. What struck observers was this. Nowhere did President Traoré mention foreign loans, NGO partnerships, or imported expertise. Instead, he emphasized revenue from domestic taxation, redirected funds from obsolete projects, and savings from reduced administrative bloat. In short, Burkina Faso is taking care of its own, with its own means. The implementation of this program rests on a robust national architecture. The government has reallocated funds by suspending underperforming contracts and redirecting management of natural resource revenues into social welfare accounts. It employs local contractors and laborers, especially women and youth, so the building of homes generates employment and refreshes local economies. Widows are registered using biometric ID systems, ensuring legitimacy and minimizing fraud. Funds are transferred electronically to bank or mobile wallets. Local councils and civil society organizations monitor housing quality and ensure that stipends reach the right recipients. As a result, in just a few months, thousands of homes have been completed, and monthly stipends are flowing directly into women's hands, not through intermediaries, not via international platforms, but through national banking systems. In the town of Kaya, Aisha, widow of a teacher lost in a terrorist attack, receives her housing keys and her first stipend. Her children now attend school without worrying about rent or basic supplies. Another widow, Fatima in Bobo de Lasso, used her stipend to restart a small tailoring business, hiring other widows as helpers. These stories ripple across the country. Widows report renewed hope. Community members celebrate reduced homelessness. School attendance rises. Markets hum. Where deprivation once bred despair, a new spirit of dignity emerges. Inside Burkina Faso, the program has triggered widespread support. Opposition voices offered cautious praise, noting the president's bold political courage in redirecting national resources instead of pleading for aid. Across West Africa, other governments are taking notice, exploring domestic alternatives to donor-driven welfare. Many African commentators call this a blueprint for sovereignty-based social policy. Internationally, media outlets have highlighted Burkina Faso's unique stance, refusing foreign aid while delivering impact, pointing to a powerful narrative shift from dependency to self-sufficiency. Of course, such an ambitious program invites scrutiny. Questions arise. Will it be sustainable? Can widows sustain economic independence once the stipend ends? Are there unintended consequences, such as disincentives to remarry or excessive administrative cost? The administration has responded carefully. Each funding source is tagged, separated from political spending, and published monthly for public review. Over time, financial literacy programs and vocational training are being paired with stipends to foster longer-term self-reliance. The pilot phase covers rural provinces first, with gradual rollout as revenue permits, avoiding unsustainable commitments. Regular audits, biometric checks, and whistleblower protections are built in. What Captain Traoré's initiative demonstrates is not just good governance, but continental audacity, that African nations can solve African problems, not as recipients, but as actors with agency. By hosting domestic solutions on domestic resources, Burkina Faso signals, Africa can build social safety nets without leverage from international donors who often impose policy strings or conditionality. In doing so, the country also resists policy agendas rooted in external priorities, like generic development targets or privatization mandates, and instead emphasizes national needs, local solutions, and community oversight. The implications stretch beyond widows and housing. If scaled wisely, this approach could extend to include scholarships for vulnerable youth, disability support, small agrarian grants for farmers, and emergency cash for conflict-affected families. Each program would be financed domestically through restructured budgets, progressive revenue collection, not by external loans. If replicated across Africa, this could reshape welfare and define a new era. African social policy, African implementation, African control. As this chapter unfolds, consider this: a country under pressure, choosing not to plead, but to act. A young leader deciding not to wait, but to deliver. A people previously numbered among the forgotten, suddenly counted, sheltered, empowered. This is not just news. This is narrative changing. President Captain Traoré's widow housing and monthly salary surprise is more than a policy. It is a statement that African governments can prioritize the vulnerable. African citizens deserve dignity secured with domestic resources. African solutions can adapt to local realities without the strings of foreign donors. It's a revolution in policy and pride, a shining example for Africa built without borrowing. I'm your presenter, and you're watching Africa Rising.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear: Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.